hope to a life. Yes, I'm talking about the doctors who make all-out efforts to bring smiles on the faces of suffering humanity and are devoted to their duties and show immense courage to save lives. And today, we have assembled here to honor one such doctor who has touched the lives of thousands with his healing touch and unique medical interventions. A very hearty good morning to one and all present here. I am Aradhna Patnaik from Ispat English Medium School. Today, we have amidst us the chief guest of our program, Mr. Atanu Bhaumik, Director in charge of Rourkela Steel Plant. We also have amidst us the star attraction of our program, a prodigy of our RSTV family, Professor and Dr. Prokar Dasgupta, a world-famous urologist and the winner of the coveted Padma Shri Award. We have our guests of honor, Mr. A.K. Kundu, ED Mines, Mr. S.R. Suryavanshi, ED Works, Mr. A.K. Pradhan, ED Projects, and Mr. P.K. Sarpati, ED P&A of RSTV. May I now request Mr. A.K. Naik, CGM, TA and CSR to kindly escort the dignitaries to the stage. Thank you, ma'am. May I now request Mr. P.K. Sarpati, ED P&A, to give the welcome address.
A very good morning to everyone present here in this special felicitation ceremony. On the eve of Utkal Divas, we have gathered here to felicitate and listen to one of the most celebrated sons of the RSTV family, Dr. Prokar Dasgupta, a renowned surgeon and academic who has recently been conferred with the prestigious Padma Shri Award. It's indeed a momentous occasion for us. I am profoundly delighted to welcome you all, especially the bright school children and future citizens of our country who are seated here to see and listen to one of their favorite icons from their own steel city, Rourkela. I extend a hearty welcome to our Director in charge, Mr. Atanu Bhaumik, for being with us today in this special felicitation ceremony. Today's ceremony is even more significant because not just one, in fact, we have two big personalities among us. Both belong to the RSTV family, grew up in Steel City, schooled together at St. Paul's School, and both are shining in their respective arenas. It's a wonderful coincidence that Mr. Atanu Bhaumik, Director in charge of Rourkela Steel Plant, will be felicitating his one schoolmate, Dr. Prokar Dasgupta, in today's function. I happily welcome Dr. Prokar Dasgupta, an illustrious son of Sale family who was born and brought up and schooled in our Steel City. The pioneering surgeon scientist who was conferred with the coveted Padma Shri Award by none other than the Honorable President of India, Shri Ramnath Kovind, on 28 March 2022, has made every Rourkelite proud with this achievement. His endless list of accomplishments offer a glimpse of the huge talent that he possesses. I once again welcome you, sir. I also welcome all the executive directors, chief general managers, CMO in charge, Dr. Birenchi Bhota, senior officers, young executives, doctors and paramedics of our Ispat General Hospital and Super Specialty Hospital, teachers from various schools, of Rourkela and our invited guests. My hearty welcome to all the school kids present here who seem very excited to meet the iconic doctor and can dream big for their future. And I hope you school children, it's a special occasion for you to give a bigger horizon to dream big for your future. You are our future citizens. My hearty welcome to all the school kids again. Vande Utkala Janani.
Thank you, sir. If Rourkela Steel Plant is known for its contribution to nation building through more than 100 million tons of hot metal, its steel city is famous for grooming many a nationally and internationally recognized personalities in various fields of endeavor. One such name is Professor and Dr. Prokar Dasgupta, son of Mr. C.R. Dasgupta, former executive, and Mrs. Aruna Dasgupta, former teacher of Rourkela Steel Plant, has made the steel city of Rourkela proud with his brilliant accomplishments. Born on November 19, 1966, Professor Dasgupta did his schooling from St. Paul's School, Rourkela, and thereafter obtained his MBBS degree from Medical College, Calcutta in 1989, FRCS in 1994, MSc with distinction in 1996, FRCS Urology in 2001, MD in 2001, and All Fellowship of the European Board of Urology in 2001. He is currently Professor of Surgery at the Surgical Academy at King's Health Partners, London, UK. In 2009, he became the first Professor of Robotic Surgery and Urology at King's and subsequently the Chairman of the King's College, Vatikoti Institute of Robotic Surgery. The Dasgupta technique of injecting Botox into the bladder wall using a flexible cystoscope, use of a Da Vinci robot to perform one of the early keyhole operations to retrieve a kidney, use of a 3D printed replica prostate for removing a cancerous tumor are some of his path-breaking medical interventions that made him an internationally acclaimed figure in the field of urology. A prolific researcher, Dr. Dasgupta has published more than 600 peer-reviewed papers. He is known in the medical fraternity as a pioneering surgeon-scientist, educator, and the 10th editor-in-chief of the British Journal of Urology International. The entire Rourkela cheered when the Honorable President of India, Shri Ramnath Kovind, conferred the prestigious Padma Shri Award on Professor Dr. Prokar Dasgupta on 20th March 2022. May I now request our esteemed Director in Charge, Mr. Atanu Bhaumik, to felicitate Padma Shri Prokar Dasgupta. Standing ovation to Padma Shri Prokar Dasgupta. May I now request Padma Shri Prokar Dasgupta to address the gathering that has been waiting so eagerly to listen to him.
Thank you so much for having me. Greetings. Atanuda, if I may call you that. You and your team are an inspiration to Rourkela. We are very proud of what you have achieved, and I am really privileged to be amongst you students in this most amazing auditorium. I have just come from St. Paul's, and I can tell you there are more gathered here in Rourkela than there were in RSTV. Of course, COVID restrictions in Rashtrapati Bhavan meant that more couldn't gather. This is a show of love, which is very difficult to achieve and extremely overwhelming, particularly when it comes from people who know you as their hometown boy. Even today, after 55 years, I'm still a Rourkela, above all things. Now, let me tell you a little story. I was born here in Ispat General Hospital. Someone said, who was your obstetrician? It was Dr. Bambari. My mother does remember Dr. Bambari. And my mother keeps telling me that I was stuck. I was not coming out. So some kind of device had to be used to take my head out. I only learned later in medical school that this was a ventricle. So you attach it to the head, give it a twist. There must be a few obstetricians amongst you, and then the baby came out. Maybe it did something to my brain. I have no idea. But here is a little challenge, and I said to Archana that I had a little challenge for her. I don't have a birth certificate. Someone just said I was born in November 1966. There is absolutely no proof. In those days, you weren't given a birth certificate. So I'm praying that the head of communications will get me a birth certificate from IGH, please. Otherwise, I might just be an imposter. Thank you. Look, this is, to me, one of the most beautiful cities on earth, at par with London and Florence, which I love. This is a green city. It has even become greener. And as I was coming in, I saw these amazing hoardings with my picture on it. I don't know, 50 hoardings. I thought I need to come in disguise just in case no one recognizes me. But what I noticed even more was how green the city was. Absolutely fantastic. And this today is the most threatening challenge that humanity has. So if I was a student amongst you and had to think of making a difference, I would think climate change. I really would. And Rourkela shows you how to tackle climate change. Even today, I was planting a sapling. There's a row of palm trees, and I planted yet another in St. Paul's. I planted a similar sapling in B54 as we were just leaving, as I was leaving to go from St. Paul's to St. Xavier's College, and today that is a full-blown tree. So I'm going to go this afternoon and have a photograph of it. So keep up looking after this beautiful city that you all have. Many of you have come to me today and remembered my parents. Someone has given me a letter saying, look, your mother taught me, and I would like you to give her this letter. There are others who said, she taught me in Sector 6. It's very kind of you to remember my mother and my father, who can't be here because both are very elderly. It's not difficult, it's very difficult for them to travel around the country. Until a few years ago, they used to come and stay with us in London almost every year. But now, as things go older, it becomes more difficult. So I have to do the traveling. And believe it or not, during the last 10 years, I have visited India 80 times. I was constantly on flight. Not just to look after my parents, but also to promote robotic surgery. Because when I came first to the Vatican Foundation in Detroit, there were only 4 robots in the country. Now there are over 70. And a new robot called the Vercius, manufactured in Cambridge, was launched in Lata Mangeshkar's hospital for the first time in the world. It was launched here in India, not in the United States. So that is the impact you can make. And I urge you, for the powers that be, that you need to bring robotic surgery here to this super specialty hospital. Because otherwise, patients in Rourkela are being deprived of the technology that is going to change the future of surgery. So I urge you to seriously consider investing in robotic surgery. I remember my schoolmates, many of whom are here, but especially the late Father Felix, Father Morris, Sir Nair, who really taught us discipline, Mrs. Ghosh, Mrs. Bose, Mrs. Gupta, who sent me a text saying, I wish to meet you just yesterday, and Mrs. Joshi, through her daughter, who has very kindly turned up and looks almost exactly, if I may say, like your beloved mother. So thank you so much for coming. There is a sad touch to the wonderful history of Rourkela. I remember flying kites just outside the stadium. I used to live in F109 before we moved to B54. So flying kites like children do. And this was the early 70s, the war with our neighbor was on, and suddenly the silence would go on. The whole city would be shrouded in darkness and we'd go and hide in our homes. When I see what's happening in Ukraine, I feel nightmares remembering this event in my childhood. But I do not really think, this is not the platform, I do not really think that war is a solution to anything. And in fact, what we need is tolerance, to love each other, irrespective of who you are. And I think the cosmopolitan city like Rourkela brings that value to love, to tolerate, and be one. Finally, Rourkela gave me the ability to really bring courage, strength, and resilience. And it did that through sports. I used to be a reasonable sportsman. I have with me Sanjay Bhattacharya. Bhattu flew in all the way from Muscat, and he sent me a message saying, if there is one seat due to COVID, I am coming in the car. You can't deny me this so easily. The problem is, I remember Bhattu running past me in the cross countries when I was halfway there, and he won both the Milan Ghosh and the Dasgupta trophy. So he was an amazing sportsman. But many years later, I became a marathon runner. He didn't. Bhattu was a little ahead of you on this one. And I tell the children that if there is one book you read which might change your life and change mine, it is the Booker Prize winner Rourkela's book on his own attempt at the New York City Marathon. It's not about running. The book is called What I Talk About When I Talk About Running. Get it from Amazon. You read it, it changes your life. And the first line changes your life. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. This has become a mantra for me. It's completely changed my attitude. I've run the marathon races. I'm not a fast runner, but I will never not finish the run, even if I'm injured. On one occasion, I had a stress fracture in my shin, but I still finished the run. It's only later that we realized I had a stress fracture. But pain is inevitable in whatever you do. But how much you suffer is up to you. Do not be afraid to dream big. I'm a small town boy. Just because I made it, so can you. I hear I'm the first Rourkelite to receive a Padma. I can't believe it. I thought there would be many more. And if there aren't, then there should be many more from amongst you who receive a Padma. But it will come at a price. Which you have to pay. Excellence does not have an open line. You need to work at it. It needs years of passion, just like it did for me. It means many sacrifices. But above all, it needs you to remember your roots. This city needs you to remember your roots in this city because it has given you, us, many of us in this room, the best education there is. May the blessings of Lord Jagannath be with you. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, sir, for your inspiring and enlightening address. Now the forum is open for the students and the guests to ask a question to Padma Shri Prokar Dasgupta. Please tell your name and the name of your institution before asking your question.
This is your chance to ask me anything. It won't happen again. I'll be candid, I'll be honest, and you can ask me just about anything.
We're happy to hear about your coming here, and we are proud of you that you represent us here in Rourkela. I'm very proud of Rourkela because my father also came here in 1956 and we knew your family very well and all the doctors. Thank you. I just wanted one message that you can give our students regarding how you maintain that mental and physical perseverance that would help our students for the future.
Thank you so much. Who doesn't know you? You are a legend. Your family is a legend in Rourkela. The physical is linked to the mental. One of the mistakes we all make is losing our physical structure as we get older. I say this with no embarrassment at all. Obesity is a bigger pandemic probably than COVID ever will be. If you want to do well in life, look after your body, as I do. As I said, the Murakami book will change your life. Exercise daily, which I do. I'm up at 4 o'clock, irrespective of whether it is summer, winter, spring or autumn. And even when it is snowing, I'm exercising. If it's too bitter, then I'll exercise inside the house. I have an in-home gym, but I exercise every single day. But then is the mind. If you don't have a healthy body, you won't have a healthy mind. Today, amongst doctors in my own institution, King's College London, would you believe it? 15% of students are depressed. This is a serious problem. You have to train your mind. There are various ways you can do it, whether that be through mental imaging, something on which we have done trials. In robotic surgery, for example, we use a technique which is also used by sports people. My favorite sportsman is Roger Federer. There is no one, I travel the world to see Roger. I have selfies with him, so does my wife. Why do I love him? It's not just because there is magic on court when he plays, but also because of the strength of mind. We have used the same techniques in surgery where we imagine the difficult bits of the operation before we do it. I tell you, there are more signaling in this part of your brain, which is called the frontal lobe, if you imagine in a structured fashion what you're about. So we can learn to do this. But above all, remember this. Whenever you do something, do your very best. But do not worry about the outcome. Because there will be failures. Do your best. Do not worry what happens. If good happens of it, then you've done well. If it didn't work, then keep on trying and trying. So thank you for your question. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, my name is Prokar. I am from Ispat Industry School, Sector 20. Sir, I want to ask you that what inspired you to become a doctor?
Very simple. Because my grandfather lived in F79. His name was Shishir Kumar Roy. He was a doctor, and I was brought up by my grandparents because my mother was busy in school and my father, as you heard, was busy working in the steel plant. So my earliest memories of childhood was my grandfather, a tall, straight man, me there, holding on to his little finger and wanting to become him. When I was a child growing up in Rourkela, you only had two options. I wish there were more options, and I hope there are more options. But in middle class families, the thought process was the children either became a doctor or an engineer. That's accepted. When I was growing up, those were the two things you became. Otherwise, there was something wrong with you. What I really wanted to do was go off to Doom School and do politics. So that didn't happen. So I took both entrance examinations. I got, I think, computer science in IC, if I remember correctly. You might check the records, I may be misquoting myself. I got something in IC. And I got into medical college in Calcutta, and the decision was easy. My late grandfather by then, voice kept ringing in my ears, and therefore it was very simple. It was my granddad.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Felicitation from Ispat English Middle School. Sir, as a student, we all find difficulties to balance our studies and extracurricular activities. So, as a student, when you were a student, how did you balance your studies and extracurricular activities?
Badly is the answer. Not very well. But I have learned from experience that it is vital to get a work-life balance. I think in our days, the mantra was work as hard as you can, read as long as you can, as many hours as you can give it, and the rest can follow. I don't think that is right. You have to follow your passion. For example, if you find that you are committed to sports and you have the talent, and that's what you need to chase, then that needs to become the major focus. Doesn't mean you throw your studies away, but then that needs to become the main focus. And I think as the days have gone by, I have realized that the work-life balance is vital rather than just working, and working. So work smarter, as I do now, keep a perspective on what you wish to achieve, and chase your goal till you get it. Do not be afraid of failure. There will be many obstacles along the way. I don't want you to think from my citation, which you very kindly read, that I was born with a silver spoon and I've had a completely smooth life throughout. It's never like that. Life has its ups and downs. But if you get the balance right, you will achieve one thing and one thing in the end, that is happiness. To me, above success is happiness. Be happy in what you do and do whatever makes you happy. Thanks a lot.
Sir, one more question.
Please.
Sir, in our nowadays parents are saying that you have to become doctor, so you have to study long hours. So is it true that if you study long hours, then you will become doctor or what?
Look, there's a very tender moment here, which I must share with you. First from medical school. I don't remember very much of my medical school for various reasons. I wasn't very much there in classes. I used to love anatomy, which is why I became a surgeon, because I used to love anatomy. I got both anatomy dissection medals, the Palm and the Masaka Memorial medals in Medical College Calcutta, the oldest medical college in the East. But much of the rest of it, physiology, for example, community medicine, didn't interest me. So I just sort of scraped through those, and I have very little recollection of going to those classes. I can say that now. At the time, if I said it, my father would probably have removed my sight and removed me from medical school. So I didn't tell him that. The other fond memory I have in this regard is a late friend, and I don't know whether his brother Kambu is here, but he called me yesterday. Late friend M&B.S. Bhaskar, who used to live in F block. I used to live in F109, just out of the stadium, and Bhaskar used to be just one door back. So Bhaskar used to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. His whole family would wake up at 4 o'clock and would study. So one day I thought, I'm not doing enough. I need to wake up at 4 o'clock, walk in the dark through the backyard and go to Bhaskar. And Bhaskar is of course already up and late. It didn't do me any good. And Bhaskar was a much better triple jumper. In fact, he was the best triple jumper in our class, if I remember correctly, than he was at study. So I don't think the two match up. Just enjoy what you do. If you just study all the time, does not necessarily need to admit to become a job.
Thank you, sir.
So, first of all, hello. I'm Ankita Jena from Chinmay Vidyalaya Sector 7. I want to ask you that why are you interested to be a professor in London and why not in India?
Great question. A fantastic question which has challenged me for many years. This is what brings out more than the citation, doesn't it? Actually, I am a professor in India. I became professor in the Awardee Institute of Medical Sciences and sit on his board of studies over 7 years ago. So I do have a chair in surgery in the Awardee Institute of Medical Sciences. It's been a 20-year association. But yes, why is it that I am a professor in London? But what you will not know is from Rourkela, I went to Kolkata to study medicine in Medical College Kolkata, the oldest college in the East. And then I was about to take over and follow in the footsteps of Professor Prokar, who taught me surgery in the early days. He was my chief. And I remember a meeting in Pune with Mr. Chris Booth, who was a urologist in the eastern part of UK. And he said to me, look, I have a job, why don't you come over to UK on a 6-week job? Because I really like what you're presenting, what you're talking about, why don't you come over? So I went, worked for 6 weeks, came back. We wrote a paper even in those 6 weeks when I was there. So I came back, I was expecting to carry on taking on Professor Prokhar's practice. And then Booth again sends me a message saying, I have another friend now in the most beautiful part of England, which is called Cornwall. It really is, if you can look it up on webcam. So, there is a place called St. Michael's Mount. Look it up, you will absolutely love it. So he said, look, there's a job there, a friend of mine, why don't you come? So I came, my wife followed. My wife is an orthoplastic breast surgeon, pretty well known in her field. And one thing led to the other, and we never returned. But throughout all these years, I made a very significant contribution to India, I feel. Otherwise, I don't think this would be hanging on my lapel today. And I feel that perhaps as a global citizen, I have contributed more to India from London than I could have in India. London has given me phenomenal opportunities. UK is a stunningly beautiful island, a land of opportunities. And I think it has enabled stronger links between the two countries. During the COVID, I was able to send a whole load of tablets when people were dying into the Awardee Institute of Medical Sciences in Rishikesh. We were monitoring intensive care patients because they didn't have enough doctors all the way from London and Canada, which is unthinkable. It is called Lifeline. It's a project which actually started in the UK in multiple hospitals, and this was at the most critical time in our lives. So I think I'm a global citizen. It doesn't matter where I am. My heart still belongs here, and that's how I ended up where I am.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Priyanka Sankar from Delhi Public School. As you mentioned about depression and failure a few minutes ago, I want to ask that I'm sure you must have had lots of failure in your life. What was the Would you like to share some experience about it, and what was the reason that didn't make you give up on your dreams?
A number of failures actually, and I'll be candid. So the first failures are here in India when I wanted to become a neurologist. Despite training as a surgeon, I started looking at the change in the blood cells. The blood has defense cells, white blood cells, and there are defense cells. Some of these are called lymphocytes, and there are suppressor lymphocytes, which suppress the immune system, killer lymphocytes, which kill germs from the body. And I was studying these lymphocytes in the deadly disease which used to kill 30 years ago called Kala-Azar or leishmaniasis, very common bug-borne disease. And I would often take these samples all the way from medical college in Calcutta and go all the way to Jalapur because the lab which would do the job and could teach me how to count these lymphocytes did not exist. And while I took the minibus, the minibuses look exactly the same in Prokar, even now 30 years later. I reached the other end, looked with the microscope and the cells of that. They just died. And I had to figure out how to keep them alive. So, and then we did do that. And the same happened when in the National Hospital in Queen Square, probably the world's most famous neurological hospital, where we were studying these bladder nerves into which we would get Botox. This is basic science at its best, absolutely lab-based science, not operating on patients. You look at these biopsies and you find that bacteria had infected them, and the entire experiment would have to be done, redone and redone. So I learned very early on lab science that failure is a part of life and not to give up. Lately, I, as a surgeon, and I think most surgeons in this room will tell you the same, I have realized that I learn more from my failures and from the complications that I have than from the successes. For example, we are the largest robotic center now in the United Kingdom at Guy's and St. Thomas's. We have 6 robots, 5 Da Vinci systems, and a Cambridge system called the Versius. Last year, we operated, despite COVID, on 1,300 patients. And when you look at the independent data, not our own data, this is independently assessed, we are the top performing center as regards patient outcome. Okay? Now, this doesn't mean that I just look at that graph and say, we did it. That's boasting. When I look at it, I look at the people I've accidentally harmed, people who didn't do so well. And often I find some of them are VIP patients, especially doctors. Something happens when you operate on another doctor. Usually something can go wrong. You have to learn from those failures. Learn to stand up to them. Learn from it. Make sure it doesn't happen. So do not be afraid of failures. As I said, do your best. In which case you'll go to bed in peace. Do not worry about the outcomes. Just do your best.
Hariom sir, and there is a song from Chinmay Vidyalaya. What was your aim if you did not get admission in medical college?
I had a backup, which was engineering in IC. So I knew that I could stay in Rourkela and I would have gone and done engineering. What I really wanted to do early on, and someone from DPS put a question, I actually either wanted to go to DPS, the original DPS, or I wanted to go to Doon School. But my ancestral family were in a place called Baliganj in Kolkata, and I ended up in St. Xavier's and from there to medical school. But if that had failed, I would just have returned to Rourkela. In fact, for a short period of time after I finished my graduation, I got a postgraduate position. You won't know this. In 1991, I returned to IGH to start my BNP. Did you know that? You didn't know that. I met Salvo Kumar, my friends from 82 who are here, who know him. Salvo is also a doctor in the UK, and Salvo was here training. And I stayed for a month and then got another offer from Aligarh, and that's where I ended up. So all sorts of things happen, but I will happily return to Rourkela.
So I have another question. I mean to say, what's your view on prostate cancer and what's the affection of in our society about prostate cancer and social awareness? Can you tell us about prostate cancer?
Yes, I can. This is very close to my heart. Look, prostate cancer is a growing problem. When I was training, 3 in 4, 75% of men would come with advanced prostate cancer which had already spread. It was too late. It had spread to the bones. They would come in with inability to pass urine and pain in their bones, aching here and there, and the diagnosis was very, very obvious. You did the right test and you find that the cancer had spread to the bones. The treatment was effective with a survival rate of 20% at 5 years. So it was a death sentence in the patient's body. Today, 30 years later, only 25% of men with prostate cancer present cancer. The majority are caught early because we have better testing, we have better awareness, although there is still a lot of work to do. And in India, in the centers where the robot is there, for example in Kolkata, there was very, very poor awareness of prostate cancer. Today, there is a machine in Kolkata, in fact there is a second machine. I have found that the awareness of the cancer has increased around the towns and cities where there is a robot. Because men now realize that if the cancer is detected early, it can be treated early, in some patients by robotic surgery, in others by radiation, with disease, chemotherapy, etc., etc. But really, there is a long way to go before we convince men that they are not invincible. If a woman has a lump in her breast, she will instantly go and seek help. For the women, where there is a screening program, they will instantly, without symptoms, do it. There's something different about women. The problem with men is that they think they are invincible. They are the breadwinners, they are invincible. That has to change. And there's a lot more work that has to be done in India and worldwide to increase the awareness of prostate cancer.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Himansa Mukherjee of Delhi Public School. I wanted to ask you, other than education, expertise, and experience, what else do you think can make a person a good doctor? Like, what are the values and qualities one must possess to be a good doctor?
You have to be humble. First and foremost, you have to be humble. Second, you have to listen. Most doctors make the mistake of not listening to their patients. A survey of doctors showed that only 11% will not interrupt the patient within 30 seconds of the coming to. I do not. All I do is greet them, ask them to take a seat, and tell them, what may I do for you? I listen to them. They can tell you more about what is wrong with them than you can guess by in front. So humility is the first. Remember that you're not invincible. Remember that you, even as a doctor, will make mistakes. The second is listen to your patients. The third is particularly true for a surgeon. We are incredibly privileged as surgeons because our long training hours give us resilience. I think today you cannot be a good surgeon by being a dithering surgeon. You have to be decisive. Surgeons are time-making personalities. The worst surgeon is one who stands there knife in hand and can't decide whether to cut or not. I tell my students, be decisive. Either cut or walk away. An indecisive surgeon does not work. And what brings that decision and the judgment is resilience and long hours of training. So I think those are the three qualities which make a good surgeon a doctor, and especially a good surgeon.
Thank you so much, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, my name is Shubhanga Panda and I am from Kendriya Vidyalaya, Rourkela. Just I want to ask that during the time of the first robotic surgery, what were the things, what were the thoughts which came into your mind, whether the operation will be successful or what will be its consequences? And how did you overcome that movement about such a hectic schedule of having so many things?
That's a very important question, and I will give you a candid answer to that. At the time when we brought in robotic surgery into the United Kingdom in 2002, there was a single robot with a colleague in general surgery in St. Mary's Hospital. London, if you have seen a map, has a wavy line, blue line in the middle of it. It's called the River Thames. And north of the River Thames is Imperial College, south of the River Thames is King's College. And at Imperial College, Lord Aradarji, my dear friend, had a machine, but it wasn't being used by neurologists like me. I had by this time been inspired by a surgeon in Johns Hopkins called Rourkela, and we had done the first robotic trial in the world in 2002 between Hopkins, Johns Hopkins and London Guy's Hospital. So we already had a degree of, is this me? I think it's you. Don't worry, it's only a robot. So at the time we had already done the first trial in the world, and then I took our entire team, because there was no one in UK to teach us, all the way from London to Detroit to meet someone who I look up to, called Dr. Mani Menon. He is ex-Gipman in Pondicherry. And Menon had done 50 of these prostate cancer operations. And we just sat there and watched him operate. And then he came back. I was very honest with the first patient, saying, I have not done this before, but I have done everything I could to maximize my training. And we went slowly. We were experienced, open and keyhole surgeons. We remained humble. We remained fearful. We knew that the patient's safety mattered more than anything else. And we had a team around us. It was not a one-man show. There was a team around us, and that's what led to success. Let me tell you this, our robotics program is now, as I said, the largest in the country, probably one of the largest in Europe, and one of the largest in the world. But last year, we introduced a new robot from Cambridge called the Rourkela system. The first patient who came to me was a general practitioner and a gynecologist. If you look up, you can see what he has said to the press. He came to see me, and I said to him, Doctor, I have not used this robot before, but I've done everything with my team to maximize our training. And he said, I will send you my colleague because you are the best. I trust you. Do what you have to. I know you will do the best. So train again, remain humble, keep the patient at the center of it. The only thing that matters is patient welfare and patient safety.
Yes, sir, my another question is that how to overcome boredom? Means back in your days when you were a student, so how did you overcome that whilst preparing for the medical entrances?
But there was no boredom in Rourkela, certainly. I used to bowl badly, and I used to be defeated by Padma amongst others. I can't say this more times. He made me feel terribly inferior, but I thought I have to get better at this. So there was no boredom because we were constantly chasing each other as children, trying to get better. When I got to St. Xavier's College and was studying for these entrances, those were what I call the hippie years. So what happened, the swinging 60s in the UK and the rest of the Western world happened 20 years later in India. So by this time it was the 80s, and for us it was the swinging 60s. So there was no chance of getting gold. There was the festival scene. I had by this time managed to get better at music. I was terrible initially, terrible. The first concert we did, no one could hear anything because the sound system didn't work. We didn't realize it, we just made a backup from there. So by this time we had gotten better. We were actually winning music contests in various parts of India. So we had a very productive group. So there was no time to get bored. We were listening to the Beatles, the Stones, and then came the Chili Peppers. A few albums started to creep in. I remember a police album called Zenia and Mondaka came in. The local market happened. So music kept me away from boredom. And in later life, books have kept me away from boredom. My wife is an avid reader. But I love the subtly great novels, the Felicitation series, and read the novel back to that. And I just love reading. Charles Dickens, for example, David Copperfield. How can people get bored when there's so much else to do in life?
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, sir, for this lively interaction. I'm sure the memories of today's program will be etched in the memory of all of us present here for a very long time. Thank you, sir, once again. Today we have with us another stalwart, not in medicine but in steel making. Another son of the soil, a pride of Rourkela, is our director in charge of RSTV, Mr. Adano Bhaume. It is my privilege and pleasure to request our esteemed DIC sir to please share his views on this momentous occasion.
So good afternoon all of you. Today is a momentous day for all of us. Dr. Prokar Dasgupta, born and brought up in the steel city, is amongst us, and having been awarded the prestigious Padma Shri by none other than the President of India, we feel proud in this company. The steel city of Rourkela, which is known for its cleanness and greenness, has homed many a talent, and many of them today are famous scientists, bureaucrats, some are engineers also, some have been wonderful managers. In various fields, in diverse fields they have excelled. That speaks volumes of this city, the steel city of Rourkela. It has had a rich heritage. The schools that function in Rourkela have produced talents which have been recognized not only nationally but also in the international arena. There are many corporate heads from Rourkela, and each one has made a mark in his or her own field. The dear children have an opportunity to interact with one of the luminaries who hails from this steel city was very wonderful. And I think that each child over here, after interaction, wants to reach out and experience and would like to emulate our famous doctor. As he said, that resilience, patience, capability to listen are the hallmark of any successful personality. So if you want to be successful in life, you have to be ready to face failures, but not be daunted or rather demotivated by those failures. There would be situations when you get overawed, but it is your inner urge to succeed that is what will help you sail through. And remember that no voyage is smooth. There will be storms, but you have to weather the storm. And you need to learn how to weather the storm. That will come from the way you train yourself, from the way you apply yourself, because whatever theoretical knowledge you have is not sufficient for your success. You have to know how to apply them at the time, at the opportune time. That is what will help you sail through and ultimately assure it successfully. While Dr. Dasgupta was interacting, and I suppose he was very nostalgic about his childhood days in Rourkela, and that made me feel the same, because we have quite a few things in common. Born in Rourkela, same IGF, and we're the same gynecologist. And both being Pauline's, it's a wonderful occasion that I have been able to felicitate him on his wonderful achievement. So congratulations to you, Dr. Dasgupta, once again. And the always better. So congratulations to you once again, and wish you a really, really successful future ahead. Student life are the most memorable days in life. All the things that we have done during our childhood is what is upbringing all about. The lessons learned in school during the formative days, that from class 1 to 10, I suppose, those are the days when you learn the basics of life, and that is what helps you sail in the future and succeed in whatever endeavor that you undertake in life. So the children here in Rourkela, is be assured that the city of Rourkela, which has won many skills, and you too would be aspiring to achieve things in your life in your chosen field, and the atmosphere in Rourkela, the cosmopolitan atmosphere in Rourkela, which teaches how to live together, how to help each other, which are basic necessities of coexistence and sustenance in life. These principles will take you ahead, and I hope in the future there will be many such amongst you whom we would love to felicitate, and not just one program that we have here today. There will be at least tens of you whom we can felicitate. And Rourkela Steel Plant will always take the lead in taking, or rather honing talent and nurturing people who really need to be nurtured, and take it deep into the society, the people who really need it. And lastly, I would wish all the students who have been here to hear your beloved Prokar all the best and all success in life. Jai Jai.
Thank you, sir, for your thought-provoking address. May I now request Ms. Pooja Rawat, Assistant Manager, Public Relations, to propose a vote of thanks.
A very warm good afternoon to all. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this grand felicitation ceremony. My heart fills with lots of gratitude and respect for the star of today's show, Padma Shri Professor Prokar Dasgupta, for sparing his invaluable time and be with all of us today. It is not every day that we get to see a man of such high stature and yet a down-to-earth personality. He is a real-life inspiration, not only for us present here in the auditorium, but also for every Rourkela. We really feel honored to receive such a distinguished guest like you, sir. We are also immensely grateful to the leader of our team, our esteemed director in charge, Mr. Atanu Bhaumik, who has been our guiding force. We would like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to him for his encouraging presence and inspiring address. I would also like
like to thank Mr. P.K. Satpathy, EDPMA, for delivering a warm welcome address. A heartfelt thanks goes to ED Mines, Mr. A.K. Kundu, ED Works, Mr. S.R. Suryavanshi, ED Projects, Mr. A.K. Pradhan, all the Chief General Managers, other senior officers, young executives, doctors and paramedics of Ispat General Hospital and Super Speciality Hospital, nursing students of NTI, and making this event a huge success. Thanks to all the distinguished invitees for accepting our invitation. Our sincere thanks goes to the management of Super Speciality Hospital for such lovely arrangements in this beautiful auditorium. Special thanks to Town Services Education, Protocol and Hospitality Services, Public Relations, Personal OD, Personal Welfare, Horticulture, and every other department that have lent a hand in making this event so successful. I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our sincere thanks to the members of the organizing committee who have in fact done all the groundwork so seamlessly. Special thanks goes to Ms. Aradhana Patnaik, student of Ispat English Medium, Sector 20, for the brilliant anchoring. If by any chance I have missed to mention anyone, please forgive me for this unintentional error. Thank you all once again.